155, take one. Hey, camera mark.
Mark.
Action, Gemma.
That's Tamara Drewe.
No, it isn't.
I met her with Andy.
Good God, what's happened to her?
She had a nose job, Dad.
So when I read the script, I hadn't seen the comic, and then they sent me the comic, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. Having read Far From the Madding Crowd before, how Posey has changed it and adapted it to make it incredibly contemporary and relevant, and I just thought it was genius, really, and really unusual, something that I'd never seen before.
Oh my God.
I'd seen bits of the comic strip in the newspapers, and I know Posey and love Posey. She's very, very bright and very, outrageously funny. Oh my God! You can sort of do anything, which is great. It just frees you up in the most wonderful way. It never crossed my mind because it's such an odd comic. You know, comic strips are normally Superman or whatever it is. You know, what do they call them? Superheroes. But this is a comic strip that's also intelligent and about things you recognise. So it's very, very liberating. Incredibly interesting. I've never made a film like this. It's and had to completely sort of rethink how I do things. And 1, 2, 3, action.
With Stephen and Tamara, every single scene and every single frame was exactly how I would have wanted it, only somehow much, much better, because Stephen is much, much cleverer than I am and has just done such a fantastic job.
Action.
To the muse, however you find her. Who's that?
That's Tamara Drewe.
No, it isn't.
He's the perfect guy for it because he's making it into something that's not just another British comedy. He's making it really, really, really unique and bringing some real eccentricity to it as well, rather than it just being quite flat.
Gemma.
Once he saw Gemma, I don't think he could have conceived of making it with anybody else. And the first day that we filmed with Gemma, we were all, immediately affirmed that was the right choice. You saw Posey's Tamara stepping out in front of you and saying the words exactly as one would have heard them in your imagination.
Well, Tamara and the girl playing her are very, very modern in these rather ridiculous rural surroundings. So it's that combination of that and its modern attitudes.
Come on, then! I'm Tamara Drewe.
What?
I'm supposed to be interviewing you for The Independent. It was scheduled for later, but...
Tamara has to be super sexy, and she has to be intelligent, and she has to be a little bit lost, and she has to be somewhat arch, and she has to be able to play irony, and yet she has to make the audience feel empathy and want her to get together with them. With the one you want her to get together with at the end. And Gemma seems to magnificently embody all these characteristics in one. The first time, you never really know, but when we spoke about Gemma, we felt that she had all these qualities. Stephen really fell in love with her and thought she was wonderful. And I think pretty much after he'd seen Gemma, he felt that he couldn't make the movie without her.
So, what'd you have to do to get a cup of tea around here?
Make it. Tea, sugar, fridge. I'm off to work.
I kind of think she's what everyone's been looking for years. She's very witty and very modern and very, very nice. I think, yeah. I haven't seen anyone like that for years.
Hello. Sorry to intrude.
How was the line?
Good, I thought it was pretty good.
She's an intriguing character. It's somebody that you might want to be friends with at first, and then you get to know her and think, oh, she's a bit, I don't know about her. But then if you just manage to continue a little bit further, you fall in love with her.
She never wore it. She didn't even want it.
Did you ask her to marry you?
Just as a gesture. Look, it's you I want to marry now. The ring doesn't matter. The ring is just a consumerist piece of zinc. What matters is that I love you.
Do you? The bottom line of it is that she just doesn't know herself at the beginning of the book, as the beginning of the film, because she's gone through this huge drastic physical change and doesn't really know who she is now because people behave differently around her. And so she desperately wants to be loved and love. She has a huge capacity to love. However, she just doesn't know what she wants. So she ends up with these 3 different men throughout the book. She kind of alternates between them.
Well, she was a young girl in the village 10 years ago who used to occasionally babysit for them.
I've been reading Inchcombe's Dose, the bit where Dr. Inchcombe finds himself...
And now she's returned, and she becomes the kind of focus of Nicholas's desire and of desire for change and for someone new and young.
Man can dream, huh?
So I think at the beginning he's quite sort of he's shocked at her arrival, because Andy remembers the old Tamara, and she's changed an awful lot.
Tam?
But as the film goes on, he's it turns to interest, and I think some passion is reignited in him.
Andy!
So what about this shed? Am I dismantling it or mending it?
I don't know. The shed. What do you think?
I recommend preserving it.
Really?
Always useful. Good shed.
Well then. Keep it.
Well, I suppose she's someone who's struggled to be something other than what she felt she was. Is a little bit lost and goes back to find sort of home or where she came from, and comes back as quite a different person, has changed herself.
It's kind of the return of the native. Tamara grew up in this village, and then, you know, she sort of left it, I think with great relief, thinking, you know, it's the back end of nowhere, and went off to London to make her fortune, and did. She's quite a successful journalist, but she has come back transformed in that she was a plain girl and she has made herself beautiful.
The sections where we see the past with Tamara are like in the past, they're like flashbacks where she's much younger. So when we see her in the present, she is what she is. With her new nose, with everything, with that surface construction. And what I have done and what I hope I've achieved is that there is a briskness about her London look. When we see her London look, it's more streetwise. The colours are slicker. There's more greys and blacks and more that sort of feel, that slightly hard-edged feel. And then as she relaxes into the country, you start to see her unwind slightly in how she's dressing.
Why did you change your face?
Changing my face is the best thing I ever did. I don't care what anybody else thinks.
I think Tamara has got an idea of the person that she wants to be, and she has made herself match this ideal of beauty. She's had her nose changed, she's, you know, got the hair, the clothes, done the diet, she's, you know, so she left at 18 as a rather awkward, plain, angry girl, and has come back in her mid-20s as this beautiful woman who no one quite recognises, no one can quite believe it's the same person.
What am I doing with you?
There's someone else, isn't there?
For God's sake!
Not the narcissist drummer.
Goodbye.
It's that ignorant lunk, isn't it? That muscle-bound wastrel, Andy Cobb.
Andy Cobb is a far better man than you.
He'd like to move on, and I think that's probably all interlinked with you know, a middle-aged man wanting to reinvent himself through the eyes and the body of a much younger woman.
Matter of fact, I read one of your books, Another Distraction. I thought it was decent stuff.
Well, how do I do it? I just get on with it, Greg.
Full of biscuits here.
I imagine he'd like to be taken more seriously as a writer, and that there's a sense, I think this is his 19th Inchcombe book. I think he's reached a sense of that he is just churning them out.
You created Inchcombe. If only he were real. He's my kind of man.
Yes, sophisticated, jaded, but so vulnerable, cynical.
He's
but
one of
a
those men who feels, I guess, that he's got the right to just sort of the right to roam, basically, sexually. You know, that is absolutely his right as what he calls a creative mind.
I'm always taking you for granted. I'm vile, I know. You should kick me, really.
Who is she?
What?
It's a very tricky relationship. You know, it's a long-term relationship. They've known each other for, you know, more than a couple of decades. So there's incredible history. And you know when two people grow at different rates, and it's a complicated journey where you're not sure who's actually making the decisions.
Judy, she said the Impala contract should be through in a day or two.
I could come with you.
What?
For a drive.
And I think it then comes to a point where they have to acknowledge the complicity of something which is perhaps not what they actually wanted in the first place.
Don't touch me. Don't you dare.
I'm sorry.
Not good enough. Not anymore.
He
sorry.
finds out very quickly what's going on between them and their relationship and their marriage, and what Nicholas is up to. There's a great scene where he's locked in the bathroom, and so he knows the sort of fallacy that's happening, and I think he feels very badly for Beth, and yet says nothing, and sort of watches as well, and is fascinated by what he sees, and I think that also somehow stokes his excitement about being here, and then clearly what's going on with, as Andy and Tamara, and is sort of involving himself with everything and everybody, and these kind of romantic machinations that are going on, I think he finds quite titillating, but at the same time ultimately sees, what Nicholas has done to Beth, and she, of course, opens him up, right? She opens Glenn up and frees him so that he can then write what he ultimately writes.
Beth, when I was lost with my book, you helped me more than you know. You asked me who I was writing it for. You.
Stephen casts well. He's interested in people. So you trust that, what you bring is what he wants. And you'll soon know if it's not what he wants.
I feel as I'm making a comedy and a tragedy at the same moment.
Stephen's always changing his style. He's always doing things that you don't expect him to do.
I had nothing to do as a producer except stand by and be pleased.
This is a love for me.